In this video, I'm going to talk you through a two-player game turn sequence for this game until the bitter end. It's a print and play game, and in this example I've printed the game out, mounted it all to card. I've got the 10 various British Airborne infantry counters here and the 10 various German infantry counters here. I have here printed and mounted all the Pulchit counters. 10 for the Allied and 10 for the German. They go into a cup and you randomly pick out one at a time, and then when you pick out, let's say for example, pick out an Allied one, it means as the Allied player I can now give one of my counters one specific action to perform, and I'm going to talk you through the various actions that there are. Once all the Pulchit counters have been removed, so if there's 10 and 10, it'll be 20. Once all 20 have been removed and every single counter has performed one action, then that turn is over and you move the turn sequence along. At the end of the turn, you'd also check to see the victory conditions have been met, and if they have, or it's the last turn, then the game is over. So let's talk about the varying actions that a single counter can perform. Now remember, like I said, a counter can only perform one action. Can't perform 2 or 3, just one. When I pull the chip from the cup, it's an Allied, in this example I've just pulled an Allied one, it means I can activate or give one token, one counter, one action. Now the actions that are open to me as the player are, I can run, so I can move that counter, and counters can move 4, they have 4 movement points generally allowance. A clear hex requires 1 movement point, a hex that has trees or foliage in it requires 2, so I could move 1, 2, 3, 4 if I wanted, or 1, 2, 3, 4 if I wanted. Or I could move 1 and then pay 2 points to go into this tree here. So that would make 3, like that. I couldn't move from there to there because that would require 1 plus 2 plus another 2, which would make 5. And counters only have a movement allowance of 4. Now I say generally, every counter has a special skill. One of those special skills that's randomly chosen, randomly picked before the game starts, is actually to increase their movement allowance. So there will be the odd counter that has a higher movement allowance, but generally speaking they have a movement allowance of 4 points. The second action that's open to me is I could stay still but fire at an enemy counter. And I'm going to cover firing and close combat in a separate video and talk you through step by step how combat works. The other action that's open to me is what's called advance. And advance is some movement and firing, both with a penalty. So the advance option is that I can move, instead of my regular allowance of 4 points, it's deducted by 2. So this counter would have 2 points of movement allowance. So I could go 1, 2, like that. And then I could fire with the advanced fire rule on an enemy counter. And again, I'll cover that in a separate combat video of how exactly that works. The next option that the counter can have is to charge. And charge is basically where I move my full allowance and into a hex with an opposing counter, and they go into close combat. And again, I'll cover that in the combat video, exactly how that works. The next action is what's called Snapfire. And Snapfire, and you put a Snapfire token on top, is basically where that counter now, if an enemy counter moves, that counter can see it, it can fire on an enemy counter that's moving. It's best used for basically if you're not sure whether you want to advance a counter or move a counter or fire, as in it has no target, put a Snapfire command on top. And it basically works if I put a Snapfire on this counter here and then the German player moves that counter like that, that would be able to see that movement and fire on it. The next action is called Headstand. You put heads down on top. It's basically showing this counter is diving for cover, get as much cover out of the environment as they possibly can. It makes them a harder target to hit in combat. That's it. The next action that this counter could do is if they had a jammed weapon. So if they had a jammed token on top of the counter like that, and jammed is caused as a result of combat, then I could try and clear that jam by giving that counter a clear jam action. And I roll the dice. If I get a 4 or more, it clears the jam, and the jam counter can be removed. The last action that a counter can take is what's called a medical aid action. And if the counter had a wounded counter on top, it makes them less efficient in combat, and they can be removed from the game at the end of the turn, is I could try and use the medical aid just to give some quick first aid to the counter. I roll a dice again on a 4 or more, so 4, 5, 6. That counter is then removed. Obviously, you would only use that if the counter had a wounded. The other thing that this action can do is it also enables this counter to move towards a friendly counter that has a wounded and perform first aid on their comrade. So this counter here could, if I wanted to, I could give it the medical aid action, could move next to that counter there, and then I roll to see if that wounded counter is removed from there. Full details about how all these things work and how all the mechanics work are fully detailed in the rules, as you would expect. Thank you.